So this week we get our hottest, sauciest, sexiest episode of House of the Dragon. Scaly old man king sex? Anyone? Anyone? In a previous episode, I said I didn't want any of this young pedophile Targaryen incest going on. I kind of wanted my old school, Lannister, sexy, of age incest. And then House of the Dragon's like, well, do you want Targaryen of age, sexy incest? Maybe I do. I'll never tell. But yeah, oh boy, that was a steamy episode of House of the Dragon. Pretty much just all sex, all sexual, all kind of sexual awakening kind of things, but then mixed up with some politicking and just Daemon being a very cheeky, naughty boy. Just, naughty, naughty boy. I kind of can't get over the fact that my favorite doctor of House Targaryen is just carrying this show on his shoulders. He's just like, House of Dragon, everybody in House of Dragon, just get on these bad boys. Let's go. We start the episode and Rhaenyra she's going about trying to get a suitable partner. And one's an old man, he's all like cough cough and she's like, no good. And then there's a little boy and she's like, too young. Standards for once. Okay, that's interesting. We got a little bit of a duel and the little boy kills someone. What's with the Targaryens just letting bloodshed and anarchy and craziness? Like, is that going to start a little civil war between those two houses? That was just madness. And she didn't give a shit. Like, she's acting like all high and mighty. And I keep being like, is she kind of too nice for a Targaryen? Like, I feel like, back in the day, they're always like, flip a coin, Targaryen. They're going to be psychos and stuff. No, they're actually psychos. They're just letting people get slaughtered at tourneys. People at marriage proposal events are just killing each other. And she literally didn't blink an eye. She just looked back and went, oh wow, the boy won. That's shocking. Not shocking that he killed somebody. Madness. I love it, but utter madness. So she sails back home to tell her dad, hey, we're 4 episodes in. I'm sick of this try to marry me plot. Let's move on and do something else. But before she can get home, the spaghetti dragon, Daemon's spaghetti dragon, all covered in bolognese sauce, just flies on by. My lord, that little noodle spaghetti dragon is just so thin. I very much appreciate the idea that Daemon's just like, dragon, just do like a flyby, like right near the boat, just to make the boat go like, whoop, 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 do a little shaking, just for like some mild intimidation, just some razzing, just some fun, sibling razzing. And so the whole episode takes place with Daemon coming back to King's Landing. He's won his little battle against crab feeder boy King Man, and he's all like, I'm actually the king of down that way, Narrow Sea, but no, you're the king. Brother King, and he's acting all nice and charming. He's trying to charm Rhaenyra. There's a really amazing sequence where she gets like a little note. She pushes a secret door and the music's swelling and it's Ramin Djawadi's just absolutely nailing it with the score. And suddenly it was like so mysterious and like, I don't know, just very intriguing. And she's going through like all the caverns, the big dragon skull, all the things. And then they're wearing hoods and beanies and stuff. That beanie looked very modern, but neither here nor there. And they go traversing through the streets and finding out what the common folk think and what do they do? Mostly blowing fire and fire tricks, I guess, because the Targaryens are like, everyone's just going to want a little bit of fire magic. This whole sequence was really fun. I love the idea of being like, oh wait, hold on. Are they going to be friends and team up? Is this because I didn't see it as like a kind of a power play or, manipulation, a bit of politicking until of course it came out later that it was all, a ruse and all that stuff. But I really like the idea that he's like, hey, I'm just going to kind of, befriend her, show her the common folk, show them what they think as well. They go to a theater show, which was really, really fun. I love seeing the common folk and how they perceive everything that's going up in the, in the big royal tower and the big castle and all that stuff, and them seeing like what's going on, Rhaenyra booing. It was just a lot of fun. Very reminiscent of when I was watching the whole Battle of the Five Kings thing take place in season 6. So they try some street food, go to a theater show, a fun night out on the town. And then Daemon's like, let's get weird and sexual. True? Cousin / niece / whatever they are. They go to a sexy, sexy brothel, and at first, I'm like, okay, all right, I see what he's trying to do, like show her that sex can be for men and women, and because the whole episode is she doesn't want to get married because she doesn't want to get tied down, and he's showing her, hey, even if you get tied down, you can just have sex with whoever, like that's we can do that. We're royalty. We can do whatever we want. So he's showing her all this, and at first I'm like, okay, I understand where he's coming from with all this, but no, it's just a big ploy, and he goes, let's get our sexy times on, and then we get our big sexy times with them, and it's pretty intense. Like, it's very hot and steamy, but then it keeps cutting to the king and his wife with some of the most horrid sex scenes I've ever seen. He's just so old and fat and scaly and diseased, and she's just like emotionless, and it's just truly horrifying. But then it cuts back to our sexy times with the Targaryens, and it's all just a bit intense. And then he runs away, and then you see the little boy who's clearly like a little spy, one of the little birds or whatever, and it's like, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. And it's such an intense, clever move from Daemon, and then as the episode plays out, everyone finds out, and there's a really great line from the king where it's like, it doesn't even matter if you did or didn't do it in the end, even though he gives her that little magic don't get pregnant juice at the end, so clearly he thinks it did happen. But it's like, it's just perception. It's just perception. It's what people think. You've put yourself in that situation, and it's over. And so, in one fell swoop, Daemon has made the king wary of the hand of the king, and gotten rid of the hand of the king, made him not trust his own daughter, ruin the next queen's maidenhood, all in one big, sexy fell swoop. It's ingenious. It's so efficient. He's just the king of being a badass, politicking, he's just a bad boy, waking up drunk in a brothel, being like, oh, that was I don't need no hangover juice. I'm cool just being hungover because I'm a bad boy. I'm starting to really like Matt Smith. I mean, I always liked him, but I feel like these are the episodes where it's like, it's all just fully character focused. We've got our sexy times. We've got our politicking. We've got our marriages and just all this kind of twists and turns and betrayals and secrets and lies. And it's just, this was pure Game of Thrones. And I couldn't get enough of it. And regardless of what did or didn't happen with Daemon, it's kind of insane and funny and ironic, or I think ironic's the word. I always feel like I misuse the word ironic. It doesn't matter. But she goes back and she's like, I've had some sexy incest foreplay, but what I'd really like is to have sex with the impossibly charming bodyguard nightman that stands outside my room all night. So she brings him in with some very childish foreplay, sexy time, where she just steals his hat, what do you call it? Helmet. She steals the helmet, and his response to that and her playing with it just made me feel like one's a child and one's like a man, which just made it feel a little weird, but I don't really know what her age is, and I don't think the ages and anything makes any difference. I heard that the queen was meant to be like 15 when he married her, so it was like 12-year-old to 15-year-old, although one of them looked 8 and the queen looked like 25 or older. So I don't know. It's really hard to gauge people's ages because they're just casting whatever and they're just saying whatever. So, I mean, it's hard to say, but they have actual sexy times. It really was just a very hot and steamy episode, mostly to do with sexuality and how sex plays and how it, like, you know, for men it's different, for women it's different, in the royal family and marriage and all this stuff. And all of it I just found really compelling, like really fascinating, really interesting. All the characters seem to be really fleshed out in this episode with where they're standing, what they're trying to do. And like that moment at the end when Daemon's just on the floor, just hungover as hell, and the king's like, how dare you? And he's like, marry Rihanna to me. And he's like, you don't even want her, you just want the crown. And it's just like, okay, we're starting to really build up these characters and get them into really fascinating, interesting places. And I just feel like the king, he's just so incompetent. Like every episode, I feel like he's just getting a little bit more drunk. And clearly that poison, illness, sickness, whatever it is coming full force. Like apparently last episode, I missed it, but I saw it on the interwebs. He's meant to have lost 2 fingers, but it was just green, and they forgot to get it out. They forgot to like do the visual effects shot, which I don't even know where to start with that. It's the most baffling thing I've ever heard. It's like the pipeline of people to like forget the VFX that they've put on an actor is insanity and doesn't make any sense to me. But this episode, they remembered. So he's lost 2 fingers, his back's all diseased and scaly. So clearly something really horrid is happening far beyond just sitting on the throne and getting a couple of cuts and them getting infected. So I'm really fascinated to see where that goes. I feel like he's the type of king who's just going to die from this illness, but then they'll all be like, who poisoned the king? Who did this? But he just died because he's like an old diseased-ridden man from whatever disease. The only thing I didn't love in this episode was when they're like, remember the little magical dagger, the magical Valerian, you know, Night King, White Walking, killing dagger that ends the long night? Yeah, I remember. Stop reminding me. Please, just for the love of God, just for the love of the old gods and the new gods, all the 7 gods, you know, the death god, the I don't know, just all of those Westerosi gods, for the love of them, please stop mentioning this little magical dagger that Arya's like, oh, actually, I'm the prince that was promised. Jump out of nowhere, stabby stab, it's all over. Just stop reminding me. It's probably my least favorite moment in all of fiction. There are some pretty annoying, just big moments in the end of Game of Thrones. Like that whole lake sequence, just the timing, the distance, the inconsistencies, intolerably maddening, but nothing like Arya being like, hey, remember how I had nothing to do with the White Walkers all the show? Well, guess what? I'm the prince that was promised. Stop reminding me about this stupid little magic dagger. I understand that, like, it makes sense in the context of, like, the universe and the world, but stop it. Stop it. Just tell me a story about incestual Targaryen psychos all killing each other with their dragons and having a big civil war. Just focus on that. Your story. Stop reminding me of how the other story I loved ended bad. Oh God, I hate Arya now. Just but apart from that, I had a really fun time in this episode. Nice, hot, steamy, saucy, sexy, politicking, marriage proposally times. Just very Game of Thrones. Reminded me of what I love about this show, with all this just kind of betrayals and lies and secrets and marriageal thingy things and just all these crazy, insane family dynamics with, you know, a healthy dose of incest. It's everything I want. This was a royal beheading from being peak Game of Thrones episode. Like, it had everything I like. It was really, really fun. And now I feel like I'm back on board. I had a couple of issues with last week, but I just feel like when you do such a big battle, I want it to be perfect. And now we're done. I'm over the crab guy not having any dialogue or backstory motivations or anything. It's fine. It's fine. I mean, it's not fine. I'm still annoyed. But this episode reminded me, this show is about warring Targaryen, dragon v dragon. So let's focus on all that. Dragon v dragon goodness, like this episode did. Just focused heavily on all these characters. And an episode like this makes me go, oh, it actually works to just have a couple of characters. We're not going to here, to here, to here, over across to the narrow sea, to the wall. So we're able to focus really heavily, and one full episode feels very self-contained and can tell like a beginning, middle, and end all in one episode like this. You know, with the betrayal and the twists and the turns, and then it ends up being the Hand of the King's gone. Terrible decision, by the way. Like, I just feel like that was not the right call. Like, Otto was just doing what he thought was right, like telling the king what's up, and a king who's like, everyone telling me what's up, don't tell me what's up. I can do whatever. I'm drunk and I'm the king. He's never made a good decision. I feel like every single decision he keeps making, it's bad to worse to worse. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I would love to know what everyone thought of this hot, sexy episode of House of the Dragon.